Okay, so a bunch of people have texted me asking, what was it like? What was it like to meet the Pope? It was pretty cool. So briefly to describe, we all piled into vans from the hotel and had a motorcade escort us all the way to Vatican City, where then we went through, some entrance that gave us access to the backside of Vatican City where tourists don't go, and the backside of St. Peter's Basilica, which I had seen in the morning, which is extraordinary and beautiful and interesting and complicated. And it's just as beautiful and ornate and, full of sculptures and statues and figures on the backside. The whole thing is beautiful. So we went around and found ourselves in a courtyard, which is the courtyard that leads up to the building, where you take an elevator upstairs and then walk down a long, beautiful, ornate, artfully painted hallway, like so many of the hallways here are. And then we all put our phones down on a table. Nobody could bring in a phone. And we sat down, all 46 delegates of us, and we waited. And we looked at a chair, empty chair at the front of the room. The mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, was having a private meeting with the Pope. And we waited. And what we had been told is that when he walks in the room, we'll stand and give applause, and then he's going to address us. And then we'll all have a moment to talk to him. And while we were sitting there waiting, and I was just kind of looking at the empty chair that I knew he would be sitting in, I found myself surprisingly emotional, which I was not expecting. This whole experience I was finding to be culturally interesting, religiously interesting. I majored in religious studies. This is all, all very interesting. Obviously, like as a Jewish person walking around Rome, there's a lot of interesting history here. I'm seeing all the Jewish history here tomorrow, but there's a lot of Jewish history in the history of Christianity and Catholicism, kind of baked in. And so, thinking about that as I'm looking at the panels of the Sistine Chapel. But, in terms of meeting the Pope, I was not feeling it to be kind of personal, other than, here's a religious leader who has a hard job. And, I know what that's like. But I have to say, sitting, looking at that chair, I just started to weep. And it really didn't stop until well after he left the room. And look, it's happening again as I think about it. And I was asking myself, Rabbi Lizzi, why are you crying? What's happening right now? And I could think of a number of answers, but I think the thing that feels the most resonant is he has a lot of flock to shepherd. He is the shepherd of a big flock, like 1 billion people, more than 1 billion people. And beyond that, the world looks to him as a moral voice. That's a big weight to carry on your shoulders. We have 670 builders in our community, builder families, individuals, couples, families. Not exactly the same thing. But these past couple of years, ask any rabbi you know, it's been hard. It's been hard to do this job. And most of us wake up every day grateful and glad for the opportunity to serve, but it's hard. And I think I was relating and feeling the weight of the role of being a clergy person. And I think all of the clergy people in the room were feeling that on some level. We gathered around the Pope at the end of this meeting. He spoke, and I'll tell you what he said in a minute. And then all of us had the opportunity to speak with him one-on-one, which we were not expecting. And I thanked him. Well, first of all, I connected with him over being a South Sider and a Sox fan, and having grown up in close proximity to the Catholic Theological Union. And I told him a little bit about Mishkan. And I thanked him for holding a moral voice in which he does not lose sight of the humanity of anybody in the picture, including Israelis and including Palestinians, while talking about an issue that feels very personal, to a lot of the people in this world and a lot of the people in our community. But I feel that even as he's taken a strong anti-war stance, he does it without shaming or dehumanizing anybody. And we need more of that. And I thanked him for that. And then I went and sat back down. And then when he finally left the room, we all cheered like, yay, Chicago! What he came in and talked about was being from Chicago, growing up on the South Side, having family from the North Side, having family from the West Side, being a Sox fan, but, knowing and loving Cubs fans and, also the Bears. But mostly just, loving the city of Chicago and feeling a great sense of kinship with the values of the city, and especially right now, a city in which we continue to welcome the immigrant and uphold the rights of the stranger and the immigrant and say we're not going to get bullied by bullies. We're going to take care of each other and take care of our neighbors. And I think that's a message that even as a progressive female religious leader of a very queer inclusive community, there are still many things that myself and the Pope and all the folks in that room could agree upon. And that's what we were there to do. Anyway, I just came back from the longest dinner of my life, and it's midnight, and I'm going to turn in. Thank you for making it possible for me to do this on behalf of all of us. This has been extraordinary.